Today, we're going to be investigating how to become a global thought leader in AI by talking to one of the foremost experts on it. My next guest is a dear friend of mine, somebody I've admired for quite some time, who travels around the world talking at conferences, universities, and to some of the world's top companies about how they can use AI, how they can shift it to be part of their future tech, and also how they can make sure that they stay in a job by innovating and moving forward as fast as the technology is being created. So how does he get this work? And what positions him as one of those foremost experts that everyone goes to find out what happens next? We're going to find out next when we talk to Karl Lillrud. He's next on Speak on Stage. Karl, how are you?
I'm great, thank you, and thank you for having me on this amazing show.
It's really exciting to be able to talk to you. We talk a lot. We met. Here's the thing: you and I, if we didn't stalk each other, we couldn't actually see each other more than if we were actually deliberately doing it. I can't remember the gig where we first started connecting, but then we ended up in Davos together by accident.
Yeah,
And our bookings across the rest of the year are very similar. So it made sense for us to connect like this. And that's why I brought you onto this show, because I know that as a thought leader and as an expert on AI, there's so many things that you could share that people would find interesting, whether they decide to become a full-time speaker or they just want to be able to use AI as more of their bouquet of ways of moving forward. So I'm going to start off with setting the scene. Who is Karl Lillrud? How did you become who you are right now? So in about an hour, I'll come back to you with another question. Over to you.
so it started with the child Karl Lillrud, and as I was growing up, my challenges was connected to my dyslexia. Going to school was a challenge, so that shaped me into someone that was challenging the norm, realizing that there was other opportunities that could be found wherever we looked, and that is the form, the shape that created this innovation guy, if we may call it that, because I'm always innovating in terms of myself. Like, how can I be better at whatever it is that I do? And whenever I get bored or a little bit too focused on work, I focus elsewhere. And I do this with AI as well. A funny story: I was painting the house the other day, and standing up on the ladder, I was having a conversation with one of these AI technologies by voice as I was painting. And my wife walks by and like, "Yeah, who are you having this strange conversation with?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm having a conversation with AI." And what I asked the AI tool to start the conversation around was things that I did not know. Like, teach me things that could somehow be interesting to me because I'm painting the house and I have some time to spare.
That's fascinating. So I'm going to go back a little bit on what you just said there. So first of all, you've highlighted about the origin story of what turned you into the guy you are right now. So your dyslexia was really about your core wound, which is you need to work out how you can use your mind technology to navigate around a world that puts you on the back foot. So in the classroom, and in those days, certainly in my days, it wasn't understood about dyslexia. It was almost like you're not trying hard enough. So you had to somehow navigate through that to be able to get the same results and better, and also stop it from being a handicap and turn it into something that when you use it more effectively, it can actually give you an advantage over many other people playing the game. But you always end up throughout your entire life compensating for that core wound, but you also know that after a while you master it. So it doesn't surprise me when you become an expert in AI, it actually fits into a slot of if I can get over dyslexia and I can make it work for me. When somebody throws out AI, you go, right, that's part of my learning curve. I'll just slot it in and embrace it. Is that about right?
Yeah, and the society as a whole treats whoever or whatever that is not part of the standard shape as a disability. We don't talk about abilities that other people don't have. We're talking about disabilities. And I see dyslexia today as one of my core abilities, something that actually makes my mind and the challenges that I had as a young version of myself be configured in ways that other people are not.
Can we shed some light on that while we're on this subject? So, for many people who don't understand about dyslexia, or many people who've suffered or are suffering from dyslexia, could you explain exactly what that superpower is, what it gives you, how it helps you shape, and how it gives you an advantage what you do as somebody who is dyslexic?
So first of all, let's look at dyslexia, and the easiest way to explain it to anyone is that what I see in front of me in terms of text is jumping around. So whenever I was doing a homework, as I read whatever page it was, in the end of that page, the conclusion was different because what I read was a story about a dragon that was jumping off a cliff, and next time it's a dragon that's climbing up a cliff, and then next time it's not even a dragon. Like, things change and move, and I have an animation of this so that you can experience dyslexia yourself on my website, actually, where a text is actually jumping around with the words a little bit. So it's quite interesting to play around with and see, like, yeah, okay, that feels kind of difficult. But then what I realized was that my creative mind was configured in totally different ways. I wasn't following as other people were following a leader. I was inventing my own path. And the creative opportunities or sparks are far more in someone with dyslexia than most other people.
So what you're saying is the fact that you're on the back foot meant that what everyone does, which is generally cruising through school, cruising through reading books and all the rest of it, you had to be more intense because you had to try harder to get the same results. So that meant that you just had a closer relationship with studying and work and what that would deliver. So it meant that when you were doing stuff, you did it better than most people because you went in knowing that if you didn't go in at a certain level of emphasis, of effort, of understanding, then you would end up naturally at the back of the queue.
Yes, but also to add to that, as I went in and really did the homework, I had to do it more than anyone else. And that resulted in me understanding it from different angles. And in the same way, today, when I'm set in front of an obstacle or a challenge, I straight away see 10 different alternatives, while most people just see this obstacle that stops you.
That's fascinating. So how does this translate when you launch yourself as a speaker? Certainly, a large amount of what you create must be visual, but you have to lean into. Are you a stronger auditory? So for you, it's more about the sounds, or you still lean into the visuals, but not into text. How do you find yourself being able to translate this and work with it, especially in the AI world, which is very easy just to be a large language model where you just read reams of text?
Yeah. So, first of all, I believe that we can train ourselves to almost anything.
Yep.
So, for me, writing a book was crazy. Like, that's so much outside my comfort zone that you can't even imagine it. And I already published 9 books. So I overcome that challenge or that obstacle. And as a speaker, whenever I prepare a keynote, I start with visualized ideas. Like, I have a bunch of images, and maybe they're just images in my head to start with. But then over time, that progress into a mind map. And the mind map is words. And those different pieces of the mind map, I then connect into bubbles that are then interconnected and so on. And I see a story unfold in a way. And the next thing I do is to start to actually create the keynote when I have the thought pattern as like almost like a neural network. I can see, okay, so this is how I want to present it. But for each and every keynote that I do, I prepare at least three, quite often five different keynotes that, depending on the pickup from the audience, when I'm on stage, I can move to one of the other keynotes without anyone noticing.
So
So
what
I
you've
have,
got is a living, breathing creature in your presentation that, depending
yeah.
on the interaction, it goes in certain directions. So how does that manifest itself? I'm fascinated to know how you actually have it like that. Do you have it so you've got hyperlinks to different parts of your master presentation, so you can ask a question and then click it so it goes through to a different part and ignores another segment? Or is it that you would add those elements as you go, because a large part of speaking is your keynotes and your presentations and your slides are also an extension of you? So how do you pivot in the middle of a presentation so it seems seamless, and you've still got elements that you can use?
Yeah, so first of all, I don't have any video or any audio in my presentations because, as you and I know, that's a challenge. There is always some sort of challenge with the setup when you have the video, the codec or whatever. So never any video or audio. And the other thing is that I don't have any text in any of my slides. I only have images, and those images can tell whatever story I like. I
Right.
use very many images because I'm using that to keep the attention span on top throughout the entire keynote. So for a 30-minute keynote, I probably will use around 100 to 120 slides at least.
Do you use video in those presentations? As in, I've seen a lot of people who have moving images behind them and they animate it, and it's almost like they're doing a live music video. Or is it set flat slides that you use, but you go through at rapid speed?
Now, just still images at rapid speed, no video whatsoever.
Fantastic. I'm very excited by it because I know that when you're at a really high level as a speaker and not just, turning up to talk about a subject, when you're a keynote speaker, you're closer to being a rock musician, because you go
Yeah,
out there and you deliver a performance on a
yeah,
subject, spoken word, that people have to visualize, listen to, be moved by, and be able to then leave the auditorium with something that they can action to help them grow their business, become a better person, sleep better, or whatever the advantage that comes from it. That's fascinating. I want to dig deep into how you do that. I'll tell you why. Because I talk about the ability to understand the Wi-Fi code of your audience. And what that means is, as you go in, you connect with them. There's a lot you can do beforehand. You do your homework about the demographics, the age, the industry, what they've been through before. Have they seen a speaker like you before? What did they deliver to you that made a big difference? What was how are you gauging the success of your speaker? Is it that everyone claps at the end, or is it that a year later you want to see the numbers going up? What is it? But you don't have that luxury. You can do as much research as you want beforehand, walk into the room as a speaker and find that there's a big pillar in the middle of a room that blocks half the audience. Or you can find that the sound doesn't work, or the lighting doesn't work, or it's not the way you want it. There's a number of different factors that throws it back to you as a professional to be able to deliver what you need to deliver. But what I wanted to look at is, when we're talking about the Wi-Fi code of the audience and you take them on a journey, how do you judge the audience's reactions when all they're doing is nodding and not nodding? Because your average person in the audience watches it like this, and then smiles maybe, strokes their chin, and that's it. Maybe they'll perk up a bit, and some will nod. Maybe 20% maximum will nod. But you've got to also, I mean, one of the things that's changed rapidly for us is the fact that if somebody's on their phone while you're speaking, it doesn't mean that they got bored. They could be tweeting or Xing about what you've just shared, so in real time they can reach their own audience. You can't judge a book by its cover quite the way you used to. So how do you pivot, looking at the audience, to tell whether you're going to go more techie, or you're going to go more theory, or you're just going to go more fun?
yeah. That's a great question because it's quite difficult, actually. There is not one answer to that. And before that, let me just go back to the phone scenario because that's also an interesting part of it all. I always open my keynotes with saying, okay, so most speakers would like you to take your phone away and like store it in a room outside of the theater even. Like, I feel that that's not the case. That's not how we are gathering information these days. So I encourage my audience to pick up the phone before I start speaking and take photos or videos or live stream so that they collect those memory pieces that they need to actually make a difference. Because just listening to someone speaking for 30 or a minute or an hour, you will leave there with an emotion, but not so much things that you picked up on that you remember afterwards.
Well,
So
to jump in, sorry, before you go on to the next point, just to illustrate exactly what you said there, apart from the fact it's clearly free PR for Karl at the same time, but there's nothing wrong with that. But people retain about 15% of what they watch if they don't put it into action straight away. So that's a really good way to get their retention to be better, purely by getting them to take action as they're experiencing it. So I love that. It's really good. So carry on.
yeah, yeah. And for people to be even more comfortable, like if you need to take a call, then do that. I don't know, maybe your children are sick or whatever. Like, we want to create an emotion in the audience where people are relaxed. That's the first thing. They should be on their toes in terms of what information they're about to receive, but they should be relaxed.
Do you really do that? You say if you want to take a call, you can do.
No, but I want them to feel like if they need, they should do it. Like, I'm not there to force them to listen to me. I want to inspire them enough so that they will actually feel like, yeah, this is a guy I want to listen to.
Got you.
He's not nervous that, or he's not worried that I will zoom out. He know what he's gonna do. He know what to talk about. He know how to make me interested, and that's why I'm gonna stay.
Got you. Because for me, somebody goes on their phone during my keynote. That is it. They are history. I will stop talking and stare at them until the whole room goes quiet and stares at them as well. And when they finally go, "Oh, I'll call you later," I'll say thank you, and then I put it down. And if an MC hasn't set up the room properly before my keynote, I'll then say, and this is part of the routine, ladies and gents, do you mind if we don't go on our phones? Can we agree that during the rest of our presentation? Feel free to take photos, all the rest of it, but just don't answer any phones because otherwise it interrupts those that are sitting next to you. Is that okay? And I do that deliberately because when I say is that okay, it's the rest of the room, not me, who's forced them to have consensus that no more phone calls come in. So I just wanted to pick you up on that because I thought, has he
Yeah,
got a better technique than me for dealing with phones? I say if your phone rings and you answer it, I'm going to put it on eBay. So
yeah,
that's what I do with them.
yeah. So in my case, what I'm really trying to do is to just overwhelm them with interesting topics that engage them. And from experience, that's working quite well these days. People are really, really leaning forward and being part of the presentation, not just sitting as like in a school class where you're leaning backwards and you have to listen to the teacher.
Well, AI is a gift that keeps on giving, isn't it? Because as it's growing and it's heading towards being a Terminator that kills us all, until then, it's a fascinating journey. And I think that one of the things I find really exciting is I can't think of anything apart from maybe gardening or bricklaying or being a nurse where your job won't be affected in some manner, shape, or form directly by having AI involved in it. Now, they can all assist, but at the end of the day, you got a human doing the heavy lifting. But everything else, the learning curve is so much easier when you've got AI attached to it. Is there any area or industry that leans in towards hiring you and you work with more than any other?
Now, that's a really interesting thought there, because when we've been talking about AI, like last year when it started to grow, I've been working within the field of AI since 2006. So for me, this is not a buzzword that I'm just jumping on. It's something that I've been involved with quite many years. But last year, it became something that the general public was interested in. And in the beginning, it was more of tech sessions and tech companies, tech events, and so on. But today, it's everyone. It's agriculture events, it's the dentist convention, it's everyone that are interested in understanding how can we use AI within our field. Because there's one big thing that people are struggling with, I think, and that is that we talk about AI as one thing. But
And
if we look at the world of AI, there are tools, there are different data sets, there are different training models, there are so many different capabilities as well as solutions that are based on the logic of artificial intelligence. So AI is not one thing. It's a way of explaining that it's a computer that can actually make its own opinion around things, if we may call it that, and communicate that in a thoughtful way. But it can also produce content, and then we're talking more about generative AI, produce things based on what you are looking for.
do you get scared when we talk about AI, when you see the way that, for instance, fake media works and the way that people manipulate AI, amongst other things, do you get worried about the fact that it could, in the wrong hands, which it's already in, really mess things up?
Um, there are two answers to that. There are probably three answers or many, many more,
Yes,
but
yes,
there are
yes.
two. Yeah, it is scary. That's the easy response. But if we look at deep fake and like faking that you're someone that you're not, or having a computer fake totally a character using generative models to create a video and an audio that sounds exactly like someone else, many people have asked me about how can I protect myself from this? How can I protect my family from it? And so on, so that we don't get copied. And there is no way. When we started to look at cloning voices, uh, the intention was to create a cloning model that had a watermark. The watermark could only be seen if you had the right technology. So it didn't actually add that level of trust, because you, as you would listen to that cloned voice, would not hear that it's a cloned voice. It wouldn't say watermark in between every word.
Mm.
That's not how it was intended to use. But the challenge came when we looked at that and said, okay, let's clone 1,000 voices and then take voice samples with the watermark from those 1,000 voices and put them into an AI model that is trained on analyzing and finding the watermark and then removing it. That's what AI is all about. So the principle of having watermarks is not adding the value that it used to do for other things, like our money and stock photos and wherever you have seen watermarks in the past.
Well, I
That
mean,
it doesn't use any longer.
going down that particular route, and it's one of those many rabbit holes that AI will lead us into. And I want to stay on the whole speak on stage, thought leadership, industry icons type area. I mean, one of the things that just as an aside comment, we had this massive strike from people in the acting industry and the film industry because they could see where AI is going, and even though decisions were made to keep everybody sweet, you forget it. It's done. It's gone. I mean, what we've just seen with Sora, the technology that's coming up with, at the very basics, taking text and turning it into video that looks incredible. Not perfect yet, but if you compare what Sora is creating now compared to that Will Smith eating spaghetti video a year ago, where it just looked like the
Yep.
freaky thing, it's not that far off. Getting the voice right, getting the visuals right, Netflix will just be producing its own shows, as indeed we will, without needing to go through anybody, which means for a whole lot of people, it's going to be a really interesting view of what you really want to see, but it's really going to hijack the industry in the same way as Uber has done for taxi drivers.
Yeah, definitely. And if we look at that, everybody not everybody, but many people remember when ChatGPT launched its 3.5 version, which was
Mm,
great. It did solve a big puzzle and actually created information that added value to us. But the difference between ChatGPT 3.5 and 4 is enormous in
massive.
terms of the actual quality. And with Sora, we will see the exact same thing. And the only thing is that it's going to move even faster because now we have training data from different models that we can make use of. We know more. There are more people involved in the space of artificial intelligence, and development within this community is going so extremely fast. So what I foresee, and this is not a moonshot, this is quite close in time probably, and that is that when I put on Netflix, Netflix will, if I have allowed it to, know about my day. It knows about my calendar. Maybe I even given access to my microphone or whatever in my phone that I wear in my pocket, or other sensors. Like we now know that artificial intelligence can use your Wi-Fi router to create video from wherever that radio signal reaches to. So you don't even need to have a camera. You can now use other sensors to record video, as well as you can most probably record voice by using other sensors as well, except for microphones. So as I get home, sit in my sofa, I turn on my TV. Netflix might ask me, like, yeah, I think based on your day that you're looking for this emotional state when you go to bed, or you're looking to experience something like this because I can see that there's three people in the room and you have all have 3 different days, but as a group, you will probably like this state as you part as friends or as you go to bed as a family or whatever. And on the fly, you're going to have that experience presented to you.
It's fascinating. Let's bring us back to speakers. Now I know you're in Spain right now. Originally from Sweden, you got homes. You just come to the UAE now. You just settled in UAE, which is amazing, and we're connecting very soon. You'll meet your family and everything, which is brilliant. And in the US, you're there as well. Where do you feel yourself as a speaker as more of a global citizen, or are you always going to be Swedish? No offense to any of those things.
Um, I have probably never really felt myself as a Swedish person, and I'm strongly questioning the concept of countries as we progress into this digital revolution. I do understand the concept of countries, and that it's going to take some time before we give up our landmark, so to say. But I'm a global citizen. I'm I wouldn't say a digital nomad to the full extent of being a digital nomad, but I'm definitely nomadish, moving around the world and adding experiences to my life because that shapes my story.
That's fascinating. As a very high end digital nomad, because I get it, I get exactly what you're talking about, and a speaker as well, and a thought leader, the world is full of people who are now working from home but feeling a little bit of guilt because they don't feel part of the company so much, but they didn't really feel that anyway. They're able to live in a country that they want to. The companies are finding it difficult because the old business model was you've got to pay rent and therefore you should have people in the office to pay that rent. But there's a new movement, or at least there was from a pandemic, of people like yourself and myself who connected. I'm in Dubai right now. You're in Spain. We could be in any country having this conversation. Okay, we miss out on shaking hands, but all the other things are so much more convenient to be able to have those conversations. Would you say that everybody should learn speaking and communication as the skill that's missing in order to become that digital nomad? Or do you think it's going to fit for many people to just be completely invisible? Because I think if you don't grow that brand, you don't become visible, you don't show what it's worth working with you individually as opposed to what it is that you could get from anybody else, you could be replaced by AI very quickly, because why should I have a relationship with you when I could just get my virtual team to do the same thing?
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe you, as a listener, want to play with the thought of replacing yourself. How difficult would that be? And the answer might be quite frightening. Like, what am I? What value does I give to the world, and so on and so on. And I'm actually working quite heavily on challenging that and
I
seeing like
know.
how to replace me, and what value do I bring, and how can I be more efficient as I see it. But like, I created a GPT model that's trained on myself. That's called Karl GPT, that you can reach using ChatGPT. I've been cloning my voice in different levels throughout for many years, and I've been playing around with all these technologies to actually see how can I make sure that I never die in a way.
Is that
Because that,
what drives you? Because I find it fascinating, because you've got this yin and yang conversation. How can I make sure my legacy continues long after me? And also, how do I avoid being replaced? Because I
yeah,
put so much stuff out there, they don't actually need me. They can get 99% of what I was going to bring to the table, apart from the physical self, by
yeah,
doing this. I mean, let's face it, when we're looking at you and me side by side here on these screens, it's not that far away, maybe 6 months to a year, to physically replace you and me, faces moving, talking, so on, get the voice exactly right, and get the actual script of this conversation to be done by AI. Well, you and I might never ever have to meet or talk again, and that'd be a terrible idea.
yeah, for sure. So one of my predictions in terms of how the world would evolve within a couple of years is that we are going to be more social. We actually will have more time to make better use of our lives. We don't have to do things that where we sort of waste time. We can focus more on family. We can tell our own AI, whatever model you choose to use, to support you, to add that value that might be missing, or add more of the value that you're looking for. Like, I want to feel more happy. I want to sleep more. I want to learn more. I want to, and then your AI will make sure that your day is tailored in that way to make sure that you add those pieces.
So, as a final thought, where is Carl going to be in this AI world when we're going to be talking anyway, because we do in our group and in our normal conversations? In a year's time, we return and do another podcast on this subject. What can you predict will be different about the world of AI and speaking and thought leadership when we do that? Put you on the
So
spot, no pressure.
yeah, of course. So as a thought leader, I've been working within the field of helping companies grow faster and more efficient for 28 years. Uh, I came to a point where I realized that I'm interested in helping more than just one company at a time. I'm interested in adding value from stage and influencing or inspiring thousands of people at the same time as I'm working hands on with these companies, because otherwise I wouldn't be on stage and being relevant if I don't understand the current situation hands on. So in 1 year's time, I will probably be working even more with authorities and countries, even on how to manage this situation, because countries are keen on controlling things. Like, if we look at the authority level of a region or a country or whatever we like to call it, one big concern right now is how can we regulate artificial intelligence. And that's not the case. You can't regulate artificial intelligence in that sense. Artificial intelligence, what we're looking at right now, is a movement of innovation, and you can't regulate innovation. You can protect parts of it. And what probably will happen if you are too strict is that parts of those innovative projects will move to other countries, but it will still be accessible. The concern here is to make sure that we somehow make sure that the big players in this space make wise decisions for mankind.
And unfortunately, I'm not convinced that they will. Maybe I'm pessimistic, but I have turned on the news every now and again. And in a world where we've leaned more into me, and less we, then I see AI as being a great tool for the good of people, or for the ability to create fake news and also create strategies for domination. So
Yep.
maybe what we should do is say, as long as we can meet in a year's time and still be alive, then that'd be a major plus. And any anecdotes we can bring to the table after that would be incredibly useful as well.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a plan. Let's stay alive for one more year.
Karl, it's been an honor and a pleasure chatting to you. Thank you so much for taking time out from your busy schedule and sharing all those insights. Being an incredible speaker and thought leader, I look forward to seeing you on stages in Davos, in Dubai, and in all the countries in between.
Yeah, for sure.
So there we go, the incredible Karl Lillrud. Make sure you connect with him online. Make sure you find him on all the social media platforms. Get his books and get him to talk at your event, because the guy knows so much more than he shares with you right now. As you can tell, that conversation could have gone on for a long, long time, and it will do again. I'd love your thoughts, your feedback. I'd love your comments, and share this, because we're going to bring some more incredible thought leaders just like Karl to share their concepts and their ideas with you. What we do is specialize in helping you to jump and grow wings on the way down. See you next time on Speak on Stage.